Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. My name is Vinny and I'm joined with today's guest, Megan. She's selling her display advertising business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So, welcome to the show, Megan. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Awesome. I cannot wait to talk about your business, and just for our listeners, I'm going to go over a brief summary of what the business is. So today's listing is a display advertising, Amazon Associates, affiliate and sponsored post business in the home, culinary and lifestyle niches, and it was created in March 2018. The average monthly revenue for the business is $3,182, and it makes an average of $3,064 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are a primary domain and all of the site's contents and files, a variety of social media accounts, an email list with 1,471 subscribers, and a sponsored post and influencer platform. You can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 49783 to learn more about the business. If you want to start your due diligence, just remember to unlock the listing first. Right, Megan, that's the details of the business. Let's talk about you. Can you tell me about your experience with online businesses? Is this something that you've always been interested in, or did you kind of stumble into it by accident?
I've been interested in online business for a while. I worked in marketing before I started doing this business full time. And I had previously started a couple small online businesses just as side hustles and never did much with them. But recently starting this one, it's grown to what it is now. So yeah, background in marketing, but always interested in online business.
Yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like you built up a bit of a skills base there and a knowledge base, obviously very transferable skills, and you're able to make them work into building this online business. With this one in particular, what inspired you to create a display advertising business, particularly in this niche?
I started this one because it really played to my strengths and I saw an opportunity. So this niche is something that I'm passionate about, and my skills and my background is more in social media and writing. So it was a natural fit to start a content-based site and then over time monetize it with the display ads.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Definitely always good when you get off on the right foot and you play to your strengths, for sure. The business is obviously in a healthy state. It's generating recurring revenue and a healthy profit each month. But, our listeners will be wondering, why are you selling the business right now instead of continuing to run it?
Yeah, I'm looking to sell the business because my skill set is so much more in the early stages of a project like this. So I'm really passionate about the branding, establishing different ideas and revenue sources. And what's happened is I've basically gotten it to the point now where it has these different revenue streams and it's ready for that next level. Like I just made my first hire within the last month, and the business is now to the point where it could use more outsourcing, could use more hires, and my skills are so much more in creating a project and establishing it and less in scaling it. So for me, I'm ready to move on to a different project, and it felt like the right opportunity to sell it.
For sure, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe this business could be the perfect deal in the hands of someone with the relevant skill set and also, like you mentioned, the capital to expand even further. We'll touch on the opportunities in a short while, but I just want to ask you about your experiences while you're building this business. What did you learn from building this business that you felt really worked for you?
I learned a lot. The biggest thing I learned was about SEO. So this site is in a particular niche where there's a lot of opportunity with SEO. And the more I learned about SEO, the more that I would see that pay off in organic traffic. And SEO is not something that I'd ever really dived deeply into, but I was able to see really quick gains with that. So I think implementing even really basic SEO, which is where I started, and then it went deeper, was something that I learned. And then also a lot about social media and how to tweak it and drive organic traffic through Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram isn't a huge traffic driver, but primarily through Pinterest.
Were there any software or tools that really helped you when you first started running the business?
Yeah, I've used a few tools along the way. I've used social media tools like Tailwind. I've used Tailwind off and on to schedule my Pinterest pins. And then recently I've used a tool called SEMrush, which is incredibly helpful for doing SEO keyword research and planning content.
Yeah, awesome. I think a lot of people in our crowd will be familiar with those tools. Definitely good ones. On the other hand, what did you try that didn't work for the business?
I have tried to do products along the way. So my site now, as it's monetized, it doesn't have a product revenue stream, which is a place where I've wanted to tap into for a long time. And when the business first started, I did try to sell products. At the time, I was actually a new mom, so I tried to sell baby products. And it didn't mesh with my audience. My audience is actually a little bit older than me or than maybe a new mom. So it was definitely not the right fit. And early on in the business, I thought it could work, but that was definitely something that I learned from.
I see. What advice would you give to our listeners that you wish you knew when you first started?
I wish that I would have known more about SEO because the site has a lot of content and it could use more optimization on my early posts when I didn't know as much about SEO. So I've been going back and revamping some of those posts that have the advantage of being older and having good content, but not as much SEO.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, especially with content sites. SEO is super important to make sure that your content actually gets found. So definitely good advice there. On the note of SEO, let's talk about the marketing side of the business. What do you currently do in terms of marketing?
I currently use social media as one marketing channel. So I use Pinterest and either I manually pin there or I schedule pins a couple times a week. And those pins are kind of always going out. And then I also do some other social media. So I do some Instagram, some Facebook, but really across all of the social channels, it depends on how much time I have during the week versus how much I put in. So those Pinterest in particular is a traffic driver. And then other than that, I don't do a lot of marketing per se, but I get traffic organically through Google.
Just off the back of what you said, where does the majority of the traffic come from? Is it mainly Google or is it through social?
Primarily it's through social, through Pinterest, and then after that is Google organic.
Okay, that's really good because I think a lot of sites tend to maybe over-rely sometimes on search engines. So I think it's really good that in your case, you're non-reliant on search engines, which is definitely quite unique. I just want to touch on the work that's required to maintain the site. Can you describe on a day-to-day or even a week-to-week basis, what do you do to keep the site going?
Yeah, I do a couple major things. So I work with one content writer. She produces 2 posts a month. So I have her producing content and then I do social media. I will schedule Pinterest. I will sometimes schedule Instagram and Facebook if I have time. And then if I have time left over, I'll also write posts myself or I'll look at keyword research to figure out what to post in the future. So it's not a lot of time and it's really something that just depends how much time I put in, and it's something that can be very flexible in terms of a time commitment.
Okay, that's great. Let me ask you, imagine I was someone who had no idea about content sites or display advertising or even the niche. What skills or requirements would you recommend I should brush up on if I wanted to acquire the business and step into it and start running it, hit the ground running from day one?
I think the biggest thing would just be some marketing best practices. So the site as it stands, it has a solid brand. And that brand, because it's in a niche that people are very passionate about, it gets a lot of interest. So if you can harness the brand and you can use appealing content that speaks to the audience that's looking for this particular niche, then you'll see bigger growth. So this particular content site, it has a lot of informational articles. It has content that people are passionate about that they will connect to. And it's a matter of getting it out there. And that's where the most growth comes, the most traffic and the most affiliate sales or other revenue sources.
So just to continue with that line of thought then, if you did stay with the business, what are some ways that you would try to grow it?
I think I would push on every different channel that I have. So where I'm at now is I've established different channels that are working. I have Pinterest that works. I have Google that works. I have affiliate income and display ad income. All of those work well. But what needs to happen next is if I were to continue with the business, they would need to go to the next level. So I would do things like create more content. I have a content writer that does 2 posts a week. There's definitely room to post a month. I have a content writer that does 2 posts a month. So there's room for a higher volume of content. And then there's also not been a whole lot of strong consistency across social media channels just because I personally haven't had time. So if I were to continue, there would be an opportunity to post more consistently across the social channels and drive traffic. So those would drive traffic along with there's also opportunity to create a product, which I tried previously, but I still think there's a huge opportunity there, especially because a lot of the content that my readers are consuming is focused on the home space, and there's a lot of people doing shopping in that space. And then also my email list. I have an email list that I haven't done a lot with, but I think there could be potential there to sell to them or to create revenue, monetize.
Quite a lot to unpack there. Sounds like a lot of different avenues that the right buyer could use to expand the business in terms of driving traffic as well as diversifying revenue streams. So let me ask you, Megan, about what you feel are the biggest risks with the business, because obviously all businesses will have inherent risks with them. What would you say are the biggest things to bear in mind with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I think the biggest risk would come from an algorithm change, whether from Pinterest or Google. And the site over time has been more reliant on Pinterest traffic, but it's growing its organic Google traffic. So over time, hopefully that kind of risk would be mitigated. Same with Facebook. I've been working hard to try and diversify the traffic so that it's more evenly spread. But the biggest risk would still remain that an algorithm change could impact the traffic.
For sure, makes sense. Just the last few wrap-up questions for you here then, Megan. How much support are you offering buyers? Is it the standard 30 days of email support?
I am offering buyers 60 days of email support, and then I said 5 Skype calls. I really want to be there for a buyer if they need it, if they have questions, just to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds like definitely a lot of support. Yeah, and it's important. It's really good to know that you're on hand in case to help with the smooth transition, for sure. Are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Yes.
Great. And are you open to negotiating something like an earn-out?
I would prefer an all-cash offer, but I would be potentially open to an earn-out.
That's good to know. Last question for you here then, Megan. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business that's worth buying?
This is a business that's worth buying because it can really become what the buyer wants to make of it. It's something that is growing on its own and can be a really minimal time commitment, or it can be something that people can bring their skills or they can spend as much time as they want on it and really see it grow to the next level. It's at a point now where it has a lot of potential, and I think a buyer could step into it and have a chance to really make it their own and take it to that next level.
That's great. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
No, I think we covered it.
That's awesome. Megan, thank you so much for joining me on today's interview.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 49783. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.